Welcome to today's episode of Caught in the Middle: How an Ethical Dilemma Became a Catalyst for Success. I have a very special guest joining me today.
My name is Jesse. I have a little bit of insight from Maite's third year in fourth grade.
So, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's topic. As you know, I taught fourth grade self inclusion this year, meaning that I taught all of the subjects: math, reading, science, handwriting, everything. And at the beginning of the school year, looked at my class roster and noticed that I had a very diverse group of learners. I had 18 students, and 8 of my kids had 504, the 504 label next to their name, IEPs, GT students, and then the rest of my kiddos were unidentified. And so, I was up for the challenge and was really excited to enter this new grade, especially with other veteran teachers that I know are really good teachers and are TIA qualified. So I was very excited for this grade. But, I thought the first semester was great. But once Christmas time came in, my assistant principal came inside my classroom, and I noticed that she was not in a good mood, just by the way she came into the classroom. And she shut the door behind her, and she sat me down and was like, "Hey, your kids aren't growing. Like, if you do not grow these kids, you might not even be in fourth grade next year." And so I feel like that just completely shattered me, and it just made me feel so embarrassed because I was like, "Oh, well, I can't do my job. Are you telling me that I can't teach these kids?" And around that time, there were rumors of the TA takeover. And so it was official by like December, I think. And that put a lot of stress on principals, and inevitably it put a lot of stress on teachers because we kept hearing school closures. We kept hearing that the school ratings need to be higher. Otherwise, teachers are going to get fired and principals are going to get moved to different places. And so I don't know if you remember, but that Christmas, like, it definitely was not a Christmas break. I don't know if you can touch a little bit on that.
Yeah, you were gone most of Christmas break, working with your counterparts, people that the veterans for the most part, kind of getting together with them, going over lesson planning,
Mm-hmm.
even learning strategies on how to get kids to understand the testing, like the material. That way, they're better going into testing days. Um, Definitely a lot of work done during break.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. So it just felt like it was no break at all. Like, I definitely went to my veteran teacher houses, and came up with a game plan for how to improve scores in reading. And then I went to the math leader's house and was like, "Okay, help me figure out this data. Like, how can I group these students based on their abilities? How, just in the end, how can I have these kids grow?" And so by the time the February benchmark came, my kids grew, but just not enough in the right direction. And I remember I cried to my administrators because I just felt like I just let them down. And so a little bit of change happened. I don't know if you remember, but a little bit of change happened in the second half of the semester where my administrators told me that they were going to try this new thing called blended learning. And basically, my students were going to be blended in with a veteran teacher's class, and that teacher was going to teach them. And I felt like a TA, to be honest. I felt like I'm just here so that the kids will listen. I'm just here so that I can print papers. Like, it just...
You weren't even in your classroom.
Yes, no, like, my classroom was empty, and all of 18 of my kids were with this teacher, and this teacher taught them everything. And like I said, I just felt embarrassed. And I remember I would come home and I would complain to you, and I would be like, "Oh, well, why?" It just seems like they don't trust me in teaching the kids.
Yeah, and I remember like trying to have those conversations with you of like, I think it's just one of those things where we have to kind of let time pass and get through testing, do what's being asked of you, kind of step into your role, and just kind of try to welcome the changes. It's not anything you were happy with for sure, but I think, you know, even though you weren't in the best of mind states, I think you kind of took it on the chin and kept moving forward and was using that time of like being in their classrooms, trying to absorb what they implement, how they teach their kids. And you would even come home sometimes like, oh, we did this and this, and like I did learn a couple of things. Like I was watching them and kind of observing how they kind of are with the kids, and so I seen that, but it definitely was um, a
like,
rough patch.
Yes. And I feel like you explained it perfectly, where I just took it on the chin. And that's exactly what happened. I feel like they would tell me things and I'd be like, okay, what else can I do? All right, I'll do this. All right, I'll do that, whatever you tell me to do. But I think what the cherry on top of the cake was when they told me that I couldn't test my kids for STAR. And that just really, that's where my pride stepped in, and I was like, oh, okay, you don't want me to test my kids for STAR? I'm not going to be here on STAR day. I'm going to put in sick, and I'm going to be sick that day. And I just felt embarrassed, because it's like, why aren't you letting me test my kids? And I was kind of, questioning them, like, what's the reason behind this? And what am I going to tell my colleagues when they see me up and down the hallways and not in my classroom testing my kids? And so I brought this question up to them, and they were like, oh, well, you're in your PhD program at TCU. Let's just tell them that you're doing this for hours, for your administrator hours. And it just, to this day, I'm still iffy on it. It still brings like, what is it, like when you're about to cry, like a knot in my throat, because I just felt cheated.
Yeah, and for sure, like going into STAR, you like that's something that was definitely talked about. You kind of, I think the day before, the day y'all had that conversation, you were stressed, you were crying, you were upset because you were just undecided on what to do. You kind of had your mind made up, but I think I was a little bit in your ear telling you like, hey, maybe you should go in and support your peers, go in and be there for your students who, even if you may not be in their classroom, but them just seeing your face, like cheering them on, I think that'll help. And then also being able to kind of be another part of the team in a different way, instead of just being a teacher and there for your students, you can implement yourself and show, hey, I can adapt and I can do these different things that you're asking without it holding me back.
Yes.
From being part of the team.
Yes. And this is where the title of this episode is important, is that I just felt like I was caught in the middle. I was, holding on to my pride and being like, no, y'all aren't going to step over me. I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. But at the same time, maybe my kids getting blended into the other teacher's class, maybe me not testing my kids was beneficial for them. But it was an embarrassment for me. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I can see where you were caught in the middle, and like I remember being there on those day-to-days, and you were kind of, torn in between on how to feel or really what to do, and I feel like you handled it very well. In the moment when it was happening, I'm sure there was times where you felt like, hey, I'm ready to throw in the towel. Like I'm not happy here. Like I want to maybe look at even a different career path even, or hey, this isn't maybe something that I want to do, where I'm being like brought down instead of talked about my successes. And so I think it was just one of those things. And I remember also kind of telling you, like, I think, you've done a great job so far, especially given the fact that coming into second semester, which I forgot to touch on, but you did grow your kids, you had growth on your students, and then going into STAR, they made the decision they made, but I feel like you still kind of stepped in where they needed you to, and try to make the most of it.
Yes, and they grew, but just not enough. And I remember that night I printed out my data, and I was like this plan that I worked so hard on during Christmas break, like I just felt so defeated. I felt like it was all for nothing. And then on top of that, I couldn't even test my kids. Like I just felt like I was taking too many punches. And so now that I'm taking this ethics class at TCU, I was given this assignment, and I definitely think of, okay, all of these or this experience falls into the paradigms of ethics. So the ethic of care, the ethic of justice, the ethic of critique, and the ethic of profession. I definitely think this falls into the ethic of care, because in the end, even though this was so embarrassing for me, this was like I showed up for my kids no matter what. Even though, like you said, I was ready to throw in the towel and be like, I'm not going to be there on STAR testing day, I was still there. You can go.
Yeah, you showed up, you did what you needed to do, you assisted everybody with what they needed, and like you cheered on your peers, you were there cheering on the students, and you took it for what it was, and you know made sure to show face and let them know, hey, I'm not going to let this bring me down. I easily could have taken a sick day, but I'm here at the end of the day. I'm still part of the team, whether I'm in the right state of mind or whether I'm being treated as such. You still were very much part of the day.
Yes, and I feel like this experience, this personal experience, also touches into the ethic of justice, where it's equity in real time. I definitely noticed the diverse learners in my class and figured out, okay, how am I going to accommodate to this student? How am I going to close the gap between my students with the special ed icon and my GT students? And so I try to ensure that every student gets what they need. Which was definitely hard to do, and I feel like looking back at it, I feel like I definitely needed a lot more support in that area, but I do see how it falls into the ethic of justice.
Yeah, and I think the support that you got, and the steps that were taken to try to help you get there. There were things done, but I feel like there was definitely a gap. So I don't think they bridged the gap enough as far as being able to bring all the success through, instead of just laying the groundwork, hey, this is what needs to be done. And their way of doing it maybe wasn't a way that you agreed, or a way that I probably would say that I seen made sense, but it's what they felt. And I remember telling you, like, let them do things how they're going to do it, because you can't really convince them otherwise. And, just roll with the punches, and then try to learn what you can from it and get through this year, get through testing. That way you can kind of find your footing again and have that reset.
Yes, and to name a third ethic, I think my experience had a lot of critique in it, in which I was critiqued. I critiqued those above me, and with the TA takeover, it was just a lot of pressure, and I feel like I asked myself those questions of, well, am I not good enough? Am I going to get fired because of the TA takeover? Like, it was just definitely a lot of fear and a lot of pressure onto teachers.
Yeah, and hearing how the moods were, and kind of how much tension there was in the classrooms and in the hallways, and amongst even administration. Like, I remember your first 2 years going up to the school and kind of being around, and like everybody seemed like it was just fine, and everybody was in a good mood. There was fun and stuff on the day to day. Yeah, there was daily stresses, but that just happens with everything. And I felt like the second semester, with everything leading up to the TA and after they took over, it just kind of shifted to pressures putting onto you guys as well as administration, and it just made the day, when they would critique you on things, it just felt like instead of you giving me constructive criticism, it felt like you were telling me,
you're not doing enough.
Yeah, and this is what they're expecting. Otherwise, things could look different at the next school year. And it just didn't feel like it was productive, and it just felt like it was forcing a change.
It just didn't feel like constructive feedback. You know what I mean? It just felt like they were just kind of picking at every little thing. And I get it, because of the TA takeover, and, these principals don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want to be moved to another school. But at the same time, it's like, you can't just keep picking on me. You know what I mean?
And you're very much somebody that that takes criticism a little tough. You can be, in better words, a little sensitive to taking
I am
feedback.
sensitive, yes.
Yeah, and even going into it, like even going into this program, I told you like, hey, like there's a different type of expectations that are going to be brought onto you.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you get into the administration part, like I think you got to kind of grow that thicker skin.
Mm-hmm.
And them delivering any criticism in general, even your first 2 years, like you would take some of it a little harder than you probably should have, just because you care so much that like when somebody points something out to try to help you, I feel like you're probably worried that you're not doing enough, or like that you haven't been doing enough to that point. And then this year, or that year specifically, when they were criticizing things that could be done differently to try to help make you better, it was more so coming from, it was a directive instead of, hey, this is a suggestion. It's and then with the pressures of everything going on, it made it sting a little bit more.
Yes. I definitely agree with you on that. I am very sensitive, and so sometimes I'm not very good at constructive feedback. And so I almost let this turn into bitterness. I mean, at one point I was like, I don't even want to do teaching anymore. I don't want to do this. I hate teaching. Like, I hate being under all this pressure. But I feel like I took a step back, and you helped me a lot with this, where I just kind of realized this is really what you love. This is something that you've been waiting for your whole life, and now you're in it, and now you're backing out. Like, don't let this overcome you.
And going into a doctorate program,
yes,
I was like, hey, it's tough right now. I think going into the new school year, it's going to be different. You'll have that reset, and then you also just can't throw in the towel now. Like, you're about to go into a program for the next few years of your life, and the work you've done so far to get your bachelor's, your master's, and what you look forward to most growing up, like, you have it, and you're in a situation where people are kind of not making it fun for you anymore. And I think it could still be fun, just if you take things, if things were just done a little different. And you handled everything toward the end very well. In the middle of it, it was a little shaky, but definitely something that you grew from as the year went on.
Yes. And thanks for bringing that up, because that ties into our final ethic, and that is the ethic of profession, which is growth through collaboration. I hate to admit it, but I did grow a lot while seeing the veteran teachers teach. I learned new classroom behaviors. I learned how to use the exit tickets to better my class for the next day. I hate to admit it, but I mean, it's true. I did learn a lot, and I did learn for when I stepped into STAR, and I did learn like how to fix computers, or how to encourage kids when they're having anxiety over taking a STAR test. So I learned a lot throughout this whole thing. I hate to admit it, but it's true.
Yeah, I think it was that, and even like habits, like little tiny habits of, making sure things are maybe plugged in for a day where a sub is there, or making sure that like little daily habits, little things like reminders to tell yourself on a day-to-day.
Yes, and so this ends our podcast for today. This experience matters for future leadership. Not only was it a tough year, it was a leadership transformation. With this class, I learned how to balance care, justice, critique, and professionalism in real time. And that's all that I have for you guys today. Thank you.